Welcome to Hot Topics in Philanthropy, part of our Hot Topics, Bold Thoughts in the New America series. My name is Melissa Morris-Olson, and I serve as Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs here at Bay Path College. Now, I see many familiar faces in the audience. I'm just curious, how many of you have come to previous Hot Topics in Philanthropy Breakfast? Wow. That's great. Well, welcome back. We are thrilled that you're here, that you found your way back to our campus on this balmy January morning. Isn't this and I hear it's going to get even better for the weekend. Now, for our new guests, I also want to say a special thank you. And please know that you are in for a very, very special treat in terms of this morning's breakfast. This is, we believe, one of the only events of its kind here in the Pioneer Valley, a free seminar focused on a topic of great importance to nonprofits and targeted to anyone who has an interest in the well-being of the nonprofit community. We've been holding these ever since we first launched our graduate programs in nonprofit management and strategic fundraising back in 2006, and the reason we continue to do so is because of the feedback we get from attendees. What you all have told us is that you really appreciate the opportunity to network with like-minded souls here on our campus and to hear from an engaging speaker. And I think you will find this morning's experience to be no exception to what you may have experienced in the past. Now, an event such as this would not be possible without the helping hands and the support of many, many people. It truly takes a village to pull off an event like this. And I just want to take a moment to recognize some of those folks who have helped make this event possible, starting with Anne-Marie Canton in the back, who has really been the engine in terms of the details and the logistics. She has been assisted by Brianna Sittler, our Director of Special Events. I don't know if Brianna is here. My right hand, Michelle Naumick, and Diane Bergstrom, who have been very helpful. Kathy Rybleski, where are you? Roaming around with the camera in the back, our Director of Communications and her staff, Robin Rawson and others, done a fabulous job of communication and helping to get the word out about this event. So thank you to all of those and the others who have helped with all of the details that you don't see that happen behind the scenes to make it possible for you to come and enjoy this time. I also want to acknowledge our sponsors, Human Service Forum, Kathleen Dowd in the back, from here in Springfield. We are so grateful to partner with you and to have your sponsorship. And I know many people are here today because of your promotion of the event and the support that you've provided. So thank you so much. We are very, very excited, I hope you can tell, about the topic of this morning's breakfast. And one of the reasons I am so excited is because in this world in which we live, aren't we bombarded every day by all kinds of sensory input from all sorts of places? And being able to effectively capture and hold the attention of our constituents is so essential to the well-being of our organizations, but it is so much more difficult than it used to be because of all of the input that's coming from lots of places. Our featured presenter, Rick Bailey, founder and CEO of RHB, a specialized marketing consultancy that has served more than 200 nonprofits in its 22-year history, truly gets this. I've known Rick for a very long time. He's a personal friend. I first met him 20-some years ago, I think. We don't look that old, but
you were 7.
I was 7. But I was working at an institution in Chicago, and we had the good fortune to hire him as a consultant. And from the very beginning, what I learned about him is that he has a unique ability, a gift, to get inside an organization, to help figure out its DNA, and then to parlay that into how you talk about yourself and how you promote your cause. And it truly is a gift. And so in my experience, I think he's one of the most gifted nonprofit higher ed marketers in the business. And his talk, which I promise will be both educational and entertaining, is titled Rise Above the Ruckus, You Deserve to Be Heard. But before I let you hear what he has to say, I want to take just a few minutes to brag a little bit about what's happening on the Bay Path College campus. We have a captive audience, and so I can't let you go without just a couple of words about some of the exciting things that are happening here. You may know, I think many of you do know, that this past summer we launched our 11th graduate program at Bay Path, the Master of Science in Physician Assistant Studies. And what is so wonderful about this program is the impact it's already making on the community healthcare needs of this particular region. We welcomed 24 students in our inaugural class. We had our first ever white coat ceremony this fall, which was very fun. And because of the program's presence, we were able to obtain a $1 million federal grant, a HRSA grant, that is already being put into use with our students and our faculty to provide direct care, health care in this region, in some of the neighborhoods and the areas that are most in need of health care. And then just a few weeks later, we heard from the federal grant, from the federal government, that we had received a $2 million Title III grant, which we thought was almost too good to be true. For a little college to receive $3 million in a period of just a few weeks from the federal government was a truly a wonderful thing. And in a competitive, very competitive process, we were one of only 14 grants awarded nationwide through Title III, one of 2 private colleges, and the only one in New England to actually be a Title III recipient in this particular competitive process. There's only one word. We've used the word transformational over and over again here on the campus to describe what Title III is going to allow us to do, and I don't think that is an overstatement. Through Title III, we're going to be able to further expand our program, the Women Empowered as Learners and Leaders program, which is one of our signature programs here on the campus, and allow and equip our faculty across all of our programs to create technologically infused, highly flexible learning experiences. Our faculty are already at work on this, trying to figure out how do you create, in this 21st century world, learning experiences on the go with technology so that our students can learn from anywhere 24/7. And so it's very, very exciting. A lot of energy around that right now. This year, and you might have seen our billboards, we also launched a new undergraduate major in neuroscience. In the 21st century, neuroscience, described by many as an explosive field, is slated to grow. We have recruited a dynamic young woman, Dr. Princey Quadros Manella, who is heading up that program. We already have several students who are enrolled in the program. And if any of you know young women who might be interested in that field, we're having an open house on January 23rd, and so please encourage them to go to the website, to call, and to mark their calendars. Princey's going to be leading this, along with an undergraduate open house for our business major, which is headed up by Dr. Tom Loper, who's standing in the back. So please mark your calendars and help us get the word out about that. Finally, you might have seen our billboard about our upcoming 18th annual Women's Professional Development Conference, slated for Friday, March 22nd, 2013. How many of you have seen the billboard with that wonderful face on it of Queen Latifah? Yes, Queen Latifah is coming to Bay Path College. She's going to be our main keynote speaker for this year's Women's Professional Development Conference. Registrations are already going gangbusters, so if you want to go, be sure to go online as soon as possible and register, because I'm fairly certain we're going to be sold out. What's that?
I'm glad she's coming after me.
Oh. We will also, in addition to Queen Latifah, on that day, we will have Susan Cain, who has written this wonderful book called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. Talk about wonderful bookends. The theme for this year's conference is Be Bold. And I think both Susan Cain and Queen Latifah provide wonderfully compelling examples of how you can be bold and still be true to who you are. If you haven't read the book Quiet, I'm an introvert. I love what Susan Cain has written about, as an introvert, how you can leverage your strength and be bold, but still be true to who you are. So, other speakers, Jen Lim, CEO and Chief Happiness Officer and Consultant for Zappos Incorporated. And finally, the other key speaker is King Peggy, you might have heard of her, whose story of how life can deal one quite an unexpected hand. These are all stories of bold women and bold actions. So please do go to the website, and we hope you'll come back. It's going to be, I think the best conference ever. We say that every year, but I don't know how you can top this one. Okay, so on to today's program. Following our featured speaker, Jeffrey Grime will come to the podium to introduce our panelists and to facilitate a short panel discussion. I wanted to just say a few words about Jeffrey. He serves as director for the graduate programs in nonprofit management and strategic fundraising, brings a wealth of wide-ranging experience and depth to his teaching role. Before coming to Bay Path, he served as Chief Operating Officer for Partners for Community here in Springfield. Prior to that, Senior Program Officer for Public-Private Ventures in Philadelphia. Earlier in his career, he worked for the New York City government, where he held a variety of roles, including Budget Director, Social Services Task Force for the New York Mayor's Office of Human Resources Administration. And anyone, I know I see several former students of Jeff's and current students, anyone who's been in the classroom with him will not be surprised to know that he started his career as a kindergarten teacher. I love that. He is a passionate educator and has been one throughout his entire life, whether he's been in the classroom or not. He cares deeply about developing the next generation of nonprofit leaders, and we are very fortunate for Jeff's leadership of these important programs. And so he will be coming to the podium following Rick's keynote, and we'll be introducing our panelists. While he will give a formal introduction, I do just want to take a moment here to say thank you to Dina Plapler and to John Urschel, who will join Rick as panelists following the keynote. Dina and John are both highly successful professionals in the nonprofit and fundraising area here in Hartford and in the greater Springfield area. And what makes their presence here today so meaningful is the fact that they're also among our most popular adjunct faculty in the grad school at Bay Path in nonprofit management and fundraising. Jeff, again, will provide a formal introduction following the keynote, but Dina and John, I just want you to know how grateful we are for your presence here, but also for everything you do through your teaching in the program. Okay, so now let me introduce my friend and colleague, Rick Bailey. As founder and CEO of RHB, Rick Bailey brings more than 30 years of experience in not-for-profit marketing, including work in fundraising, public relations, and marketing communications. Over the years, his firm, RHB, has helped several great causes succeed: Fishoff, National Chamber Music Association, the Presidential Classroom, OSF, St. Francis Medical Center, and Math Counts, along with countless numbers of colleges and universities and other nonprofit organizations. And full disclosure here, Rick and his team, Rick is the creative genius behind the Bay Path College new branding effort, the New American Women's Campaign, and Our Look. And so we've been spending a lot of time with Rick and his team over the last couple of years trying to get inside Bay Path. And I don't know if you're going to share anything about that, probably not today, but again, we've all had the experience working with him, and it's been quite a pleasure. He began his career at his alma mater, Spring Arbor University, where he managed college relations, fundraising, and recruitment. In 1991, he launched RHB. He is a frequent conference speaker at regional national meetings of professional marketing and educational organizations, and has taught for 13 years at the University of Notre Dame, Mendoza College of Business. He is the author of the award-winning book, Coherence: How Telling the Truth Can Advance Your Cause and Save the World. It is a fabulous book. It will be for sale at a discount following the breakfast, and Rick will be in the back and has agreed to sign copies for those of you who would like to pick the book up. So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our friend and colleague, marketer extraordinaire, Rick Bailey.
Thank you, Melissa. What a privilege to be at Bay Path this morning, and thank you all for coming. I am no Queen Latifah, I got to warn you. This going to work? Hey, it is going to work. Great. You can call me Rick. My friends call me Rick. You're welcome to use the more common spelling where the W is silent. I've actually started a collection of misnamed Starbucks cups. And I've got a growing collection, so if you get one, take a little photo and send it to me if you would. I think it's an interesting phenomena that what people hear when you tell them your name. And not too long ago, a young barista had a little difficulty with my name, which I'm thinking about changing it. It just seems interesting to me. I think this is an incredibly exciting time. And I would say this is the best time ever to be alive. And I think it's the best time ever to be a not-for-profit. By the way, you may call me Rick, but if you tweet today, use that, okay? Because that'll connect. And you know how the importance of all those connections. We're going to talk about that. But I want to talk about, for just a minute, why I think this is the best time ever to be a not-for-profit. First of all, you need to know that I came of age in the 60s, so I'm into happiness. And, but right now, scientific discovery has made healthcare better than it has ever been. It is now more accessible than it has ever been. Worldwide, life expectancy in the last 100 years has given us all an extra 10 years. In the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to get another couple of years. It's just remarkable what's happened in terms of the ability to keep us all alive. Literacy rates are increasing around the globe at enormous rates. Our world seems to be getting smaller, and it makes face-to-face increasingly more simple. I can connect with you. If I can't get here by an automobile or a train, plane, or automobile, I can certainly connect to you on my video cam very quickly and see you face-to-face and have a personal conversation. I don't know if you are like me. Some of you aren't as old as me, so you don't remember the Jetsons. But I remember about dreaming about what life would be like when I lived with the Jetsons, and here we are. And I think that's terribly exciting to see those things evolve. And it is making this time incredibly wonderful and just exciting for not-for-profits. Here's one example of what's happening. Look at just in the last 40 years or so, 1975 to 2011. The blue line are the applications for design patents. To me, that represents a tremendous amount of creativity. And that trajectory is pretty exciting. I was making a comment to Jeff. The green line are those that have been granted. Notice that in 2005, we had a little dip, and then we faced financial ruin. So don't mess with creatives. Give them all the freedom you can. I don't know if there's a correlation, but I think there might be. At the same time, in the last 5 years, we've experienced phenomenal travesties that come in the form of natural disasters. We've experienced economic failure. We've witnessed the downfall of every institution that we have: healthcare, education, religion, business and industry, government, name it, it's fallen. And each of the lightning strikes of those failures has shocked and stunned us and left us temporarily paralyzed. At the same time that we're experiencing all those failures and natural travesties, the amount of information in the world has just come to us in a tsunami. And it's as Melissa just mentioned, completely overwhelming to each of us. It just increases by the second. The amount of digital information alone that has come to us is increasing pretty dramatically. Now, some of you aren't familiar with these terms, so I'm giving them to you now. You know byte and kilobyte and megabyte and maybe gigabyte. You probably have something with enough terabytes. You might not have petabytes, exabytes, zettabytes, or yottabytes. But these things exist, and they will be available to you very soon. But let's put in perspective what we have available to us. It took us 4.5 billion years to get to 5 exabytes. Oop. I want to go backwards a minute. Please let me go backwards. Exabytes. Okay? 4.5 billion years took us to get 5 of those. Every 2 years since, we've doubled that. Or not doubled it. Yeah, doubled it. The same amount of information every 2 years since 2003. So now, we have about 1.27 zettabytes of data available to us. Hard to wrap your arms around that, isn't it? That represents about 4 trillion books worth of information. Okay, now let me help you get a picture. Let's just assume those 4 trillion books were an inch thick. They're probably more, but let's just say they're an inch thick. If we stacked those books side by side on a shelf, that shelf would extend around the world 2,500 times. It's a ton of information. And that's that tsunami picture we saw a minute ago. That's what it feels like, because all of that has been in my inbox in the last week. I don't know about you, but you probably experience that too. It just comes at you so fast. There's so much of it, and we're just bombarded by it. And that sensory overload can be simply exhausting. Hence, Ruckus. We've got all this stuff going on in the world, and then we've got all this information coming at us and new ways to talk about it and share it. It's just completely overwhelming. I love this word ruckus. It just sounds like what it is. It's fun to say. I grew up in a small Dutch community in Michigan, and when the Dutch use this word, it's got a hard K sound, and it's just kind of, it's like a second syllable or third syllable in the middle. Ruckus. And I really like that word. It just sounds great. And for a word, it's not that old, actually. It's only about 125 years old, which is new in terms of vocabulary. And it's probably a derivation or a combination of 2 words that came up. Ruction, which is kind of like ruction, which is a noisy fight, and rumpus, which is a little rumble and a little disturbance. And ruckus is really just a disturbance, something that messes things up a little bit. It's a little bit like Big Bad. I like that. And that's where we seem to be, is in a time of ruckus, time of disturbance. The Army has a word for this that they use, and it's called VUCA. And it's volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. That environment they call VUCA. At the Army College, they teach soldiers how to survive, how to gain composure, how to think clearly, and how to respond in a VUCA setting. And that's where we're at. You can identify with those words, especially as a not-for-profit. You know, this is just a really crazy time. How do I do my best? How do I succeed in a VUCA time? In the middle of a ruckus. Well, my guess is that sometimes you feel more like this. Anybody know what that is? Ants. You know what they call that? It's called a circular mill. And it happens because ants, who are blind, follow pheromones. And if the lead ants start to pick up the scent of those in the rear when they've changed course a bit, they'll start to follow their pheromone. And pretty soon everybody follows the pheromone, and before you know it, everybody's in a big circle, walking around. Wow. Pretty fascinating. You can identify with this, can't you? You've been here. You might be there today. And we get in periods of time like this, and we can't seem to get out of them. And rather than walk blindly, I hope that this morning we look at some ideas that will get us out of that circular mill and on a better path. Because, like I said, this is the best time in the world ever to be a not-for-profit. So let's get off that circular mill today. There is no question that these are challenging times. The fact is, however, that challenges aren't insurmountable. The thing that we need to keep in mind is that whenever there's great challenge, there also comes great opportunity. That's the flip side. Our creative director, Sam Watterson, refers to these as chopportunities. And a lot of times in a meeting, he'll say, so we'll present the problem, and the account executive will say, oh, our client's having a difficult time with this, and spells out the challenge really well, and Sam will look at him and say, so what's the chopportunity? What can we turn this into? Because the opportunity is absolutely the opposite side of that. And if we don our entrepreneurial creative hats, we can figure a great pathway out of that circular mill. So I want to give you a couple of ideas. This is an idea. Ideas used to look like this. Now they look like this, okay? So I just want to be clear about the symbols. They've changed. Times have changed. And this morning I'm going to give you 8 ideas. And we're going to move fairly quickly because Melissa will cut me off if I don't. But I want these 8 ideas to help you get out of that circular mill. Some of them will be new to you, some of them won't. Take what you can. Here are 3 truths we're going to cover before we get to those 8. Things I want you to buy into and believe before we talk about those 8 ideas. If you don't buy into these, the rest of them won't make sense. By the way, I hope everybody here is either working for, engaged in, interested in, associated with, affiliated with, loves a not-for-profit. If not, this isn't going to be fun for you. I should do what the airline attendant does when they say, we're going to Baltimore, and if you're not planning to go to Baltimore, you should exit now. I'm just telling you, this is where we're going. If you don't want to go, it's a good moment to leave. But the first truth is this: you have a great cause. I don't know what that cause is, but you have a great cause. Whether you're changing lives, helping feed people, clothe people, advocate for a big idea, move a community, do justice, whatever it is that you're doing, it's a great cause. It needs to be a great cause. And think of your organization as caring for a great cause. Okay, I'm pausing for a minute because I want that to sink in. Sometimes we forget that in our work. We forget what it is we're doing. You have a great cause. Likewise, you have so many people you have to talk to about it. You have customers, you have would-be customers, you have people who give you money, we have people who should give you money, we have people who would prefer to take your money somewhere else. There are people that you arm wrestle with about stuff. You have competitors, you have neighbors and other groups, you have associations that you belong to, all kinds of people that you need to connect with. You have a ton of people who are important to you. You have important audiences, okay? You have a great cause, you have important audiences. And the third truth is, you want to make exchanges with them. I love Philip Kotler's definition of marketing, which he just says is exchange. It takes at least 2 of us. We each have to have something that the other wants. We each bring something. And what each of us brings has to be of equal or greater value one to the other. And then we just have to find each other. It's really simple. Marketing is simple. We make it far more complex than it is. And if you're not reading his stuff, you should read everything Philip Kotler writes. Okay? He's it in not-for-profit marketing. So pay attention to that. You with me so far, those three truths? You have great cause, you have important audiences, and you need to make exchanges. That's the groundwork that we're starting from. All right, I want to take you one more place before I give you those 8 ideas. And I want to talk about branding first. And the point I want to make is one that my friend Marty Neumeyer makes. This is not your brand, okay? Your logo is not your brand. Your tagline is not your brand. Your materials are not your brand. They may be expressions of your brand, but those are not your brand. And this is going to be tough. You don't own your brand. Your customers, your audiences, all those people that you work with own your brand. They determine your brand. A brand is simply a perception, an expectation of what you're going to deliver, what is known about you and what we can count on from you. So the best we can hope to do is manage the brand by what we say and what we do. But we don't own it. Now, it didn't used to be quite like this. Before the advent of the internet, life was different. I'm glad you laughed there. Before the advent of the internet, life was different. Consumers, had to succumb to whatever marketers said because we were dependent on mass communication. We had print advertising, newspapers, magazines. We had out-of-home, outdoor billboards, those kinds of things. We had radio, we had television. But the ways we get information were big ways. There was word of mouth, certainly. I mean, we met at school or the market or at church and talked to each other and said, oh, did you tell me? Or, I drive an Oldsmobile, you should drive an Oldsmobile. We did all that stuff, but it wasn't like it is now. We were dependent on mass communication, so marketers were in control. They got to say what they wanted to say, and we had to buy it. They'd put their ad out, and we'd accept it as truth. And that was fine. But then the internet caused this ruckus. And what the internet did was give us connection to all of that data that we talked about a little bit ago. And when we had access to the data, we had a different perspective than what the marketers said or told us that they wanted us to know. Once we had access to the data, we could say, hey, wait a minute. I looked this up online, and what you claim isn't necessarily true. Or your nose isn't particularly clean. Or I know some stuff about you that doesn't line up with what you're saying about yourself. And our trust broke down. The other thing that happened was we had access to one another. So in a second, we could tweet, hey, do you know this? Or, hey, you should get one of these. I love this thing. I had a wonderful experience over here on Amazon. Have you been to Zappos? And the equation changed. And all the marketers were standing on the other side saying, wait a minute. I want you to do it my way. And we all said, no, thanks. We'll do it our way over here. And what happened in that equation is that the control of branding went from marketers to customers. And we live in that world. So you don't own your brand. It's all happening over here with your customers. You get to manage it at best. So we call that coherence, that balancing, come to a point of balance between what customers own, what we own, and finding a way to communicate carefully. And we do that by telling the truth, by being transparent and authentic and being who we say we are, and building trust. And in the coherence model, We work very hard at knowing who we are and knowing who our customers are so that we can have really strong ties, good relationships, and exchanges built on trust. Sometimes we think of branding the way it used to be as bowling, where we'd line up all the customers at the other end and then try to knock them down. We'd make sure that our logo was right and everything was clean and that the way people answered their phone was perfect, and it was. We were really solid with the way we looked and felt. And in fact, we'd even tell people, we'd tell our salespeople, go out, get a strike, bowl them over, knock them down. You know, we'd encourage them to do that. Come back with $1 million, that's great. The problem is customers don't want to be knocked over. Nobody wants to be knocked down, especially not hit with a big ball. So we think a better model to think about the way it happens now is through tennis. How do we come to the game knowing that there's a really great player on the other side of the net? And we're going to start a dialogue in a series of interactions. And not only are we going to lob the ball over, but we expect it's going to come back. So we create opportunity to come back. Now, at some point, I'd love to score, but not until we've batted that around a bit. And we develop a rapport with one another over that net and that exchange, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, till we come to a point of, all right, this is how this is going to be, how it's going to end. So think about that analogy for a little bit. All right, you with me? Yes? Even in the back? All right. Let's talk about those 8 ideas. Here's the first one. Know yourself, and know yourself really well. This is where the practice of coherence begins. What's your great cause? What do you do better than anybody else in the world? Go with me to the beach for a minute. Not too long ago, my sister Cindy and I were walking along the Gulf shore, and we were noticing just thousands of shells on the beach, and we were talking about how beautiful they all were. And we kept talking about what we should be making from those things. You've done that. You feel like you should stuff your pockets. Certainly, we can turn that into something else. And as we were walking along, we started to think, well, let's pick that one up. And as we got a little closer, we noticed that some of them had chips and some of them were discolored. They weren't quite as perfect as they were from this angle. And sometimes we treat ourselves like that as not-for-profits. We're a little worried if people get up close and see our chips and discolorations and disfigurements. We know our weak points. We know the things that we're not doing so well. So we tend not to draw attention to those things. We just don't talk about them. And instead, we keep everybody at a distance. We don't want them to see us because we look better from a distance. And we think about things that sound really good, that we can say that are true, that are a little more general. This happens in higher ed all the time. And we come down to things like, we have a friendly campus, it's a beautiful place, we have professors who care, we have really good laboratories. What does that mean? And our point is, let's sound as much as we can like Harvard. Here's Harvard. Because if we sound like Harvard, if we use that language or general language, we'll get a picture of, we expect our consumers to get a picture of that instead of us. And if they can picture Harvard, then, well, that's close. We're sort of like Harvard. We're a school. Or we think about the big public. Man, if we were a UMass and had those 5 sticky outy things, we'd be great. They've got it. They've got everything. Look at, they've got all those bumps, and we don't have any of those bumps. We've got a scratch. So we don't talk about that. We talk about the things that we have in common. The difficulty with that is that before long, we're selling sand, not shells. The difficulty with that is that there's an abundance of sand. There's too much sand. And think about your circle, the organizations that you're a part of. And everybody starts to sound alike pretty quickly, and then it confuses potential customers, your own customers. They don't know what to think of you because you're not speaking about who you are. The glorious thing about coherence is that if I know how beautiful I am, it might change the way I think about telling my story. So the first rule is that I know myself really, really well, so I can sell my shell and not the sand. Okay? So start by knowing yourself. Now, how do you know yourself? I suggest at least 3 ways to dig for your story. And the first one is to dig for your history, or just dig your history. You probably have a great one. The importance is that you go after the details of your history. And I've found this, I'm going to give you the guy's name, Dr. David Maitland, who took this microscopic image of coral particles on the bottom of the ocean floor. This is what sand is made of. This is when you get really close to sand and coral sand on the bottom of the ocean floor. So you thought sand was tiny? This is what's in those little grains. And what's fascinating about this is that it gets broken out so that this is telling us tons about the history of the Earth. And this is what scientists are studying, these little tiny, 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 tiny things. So it can help us place ourselves in time and help us understand how things evolved. And it's remarkable what's found in those little details. So I would encourage you to get to the details of your history, not just the year of your founding and who started it. Know why. What was going on at the time? What was this important then? Who was involved? What were they doing? What were they like? What did they want to have happen? What challenges were they facing at that point? Get to know your DNA that way through your history. So dig your history. Really get into your mission, vision, and values. This is really important. Know why you are here. Ask yourself all the time, why are we here on the planet? What's our big idea? If I disappeared tomorrow, if my organization fell off the face of the map, who would care? What wouldn't happen if we weren't here next week? Who would miss you? You're saying, yikes, or ouch. And I'm not trying to be harsh, I'm trying to be pointed. If we're not really clear about what we're doing and why we're doing it, we're in trouble. I like what Peter Drucker talks about. It's one of my favorite quotes from Peter Drucker. But one of the things that Peter Drucker, the management guru, says, and by the way, go grab a copy of the 5 most important questions you can ask yourself as a not-for-profit. If you haven't read that, it's great. It comes with a workbook from the Drucker Foundation that you can use as a series of board retreats. Awesome, awesome material. But he says, your mission statement should fit on a t-shirt. So we're going to do a quick poll. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to write down your mission statement. Go. You have it memorized, right? Write it down. I'm not kidding. Write it down. Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, who has one less than 10 words? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Who's got one less than 9 words? 8? Less than 8? 8? What's your mission statement?
Evolution
Evolution and progress? What does that mean? All right.
Spreading joy through traditional music and dance.
Spreading joy through traditional music and dance. All right. That'll work on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I like that. Nice work. If you can't do that, you have to do homework this afternoon. Okay? All weekend long, you work on that. You get it under 10 words, get it fit on a t-shirt, and have it make sense. Now, make sure that what it is you're doing is achieving something significant and relevant. Otherwise, you are going to disappear. Make sure you understand where you're headed, what you see for your organization, and then make sure you understand the guiding values that you live by. What are the beliefs and standards that you have set in place by which you can measure your performance? Do you know what success means for your organization? Those measures of success will, in fact, give you a big hint about your value set. Listen to this. Without clear vision, you won't know where you're going. Without a clear mission, you won't know why you are on the journey. And without understanding your values, you won't know how to get there.
Can you say that again?
Yep. Without a clear vision, you won't know where you are going. Without a clear mission, you won't know why you are on the journey. And without an understanding of your values, you won't know how to get there. The third thing I'd suggest that you have to know in your story is your difference, and really get to know how you're different than your competitors. Again, from my friend Marty Neumeier, he loves this statement. I think it's fabulous. He nails me to the wall with this all the time. Get to your only statement. In order for you to thrive, you need to be able to answer that question. What are you the only of? Fill in those blanks. That's your second homework assignment this week. You're going to have a busy weekend. You got lots to do. Now, if you aren't the only, there are two other great market positions you can own. One is first, and the other is largest. And those two differentiators give you the option of being a leader. If you can't be only first or largest, another one is to be the most intelligent, the smartest. And you might have assets of information as part of that 1.27 zettabytes. You might have information that the rest of the world needs, and you are the single source for that. If you aren't, gather some data that is relevant to you and your cause and use that. Owning intellectual property will position you as an expert. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay, that was a long way through point 1. 2 through 8 are faster. Once you know all of that, stay focused. Stay on track. It's easy to see shiny things and squirrels and get sidetracked. Lasso all of your ADD. Most of you have it because you lead not-for-profits. Or you wouldn't do that. So don't get sidetracked by shiny stuff. Do the homework to know your mission, vision, and values, and stay on that. Not too long ago, I was walking past a relocation of one of my favorite places to go eat. They have terrific sushi in Indianapolis. Who knew? And my friend has taken the restaurant and moved it because he wanted more space. He wanted to attract a bigger crowd. And it's a little closer to the Monument Circle in Indianapolis. He's trying to figure out what he's going to be. He's trying to, and I don't think he's there yet. I went not too long ago, and one night he was playing Frank Sinatra because I think he was going after the cigar martini part. And the next time I went in there, we were doing Korean rap. So you know, it's hard to know. But my My heart aches for them. I just want to say, oh, pick one, just pick one, and be really good at that. Don't spread yourself too thin, all right? Stay focused. A great piece of advice I got from a consultant I listened to about how I run my firm, and he looked at me one day, and he said, Rick, who do you think thrives best? A GP or a neurosurgeon? I said, well, it depends on what they want to do and what they feel called to do. I pulled out all my NFP jargon. And he said, who do you think is attracting most attention and is in demand more? I said, oh, the neurosurgeon. He said, right. Narrow does not equal small. Consider the value of depth over breadth in your marketing. Follow me? Stay focused. Know your audiences. Remember that you have all those people you have to connect with? Know them. Know them really well, inside out. Know them better than they know themselves. Know stuff about them that they have no clue about. And develop relationships and informative relationships. At RHB, we think about audiences like in a solar system almost, a planetary system. In the sun, if you will, the thing that everything revolves around, is our primary audience. And for your organization, it might be your immediate customers. By the way, you've heard me use the word customers. You may call them clients, you may call them students, you may call them stakeholders, you may call them, yeah. There are a lot of names for them. They're customers, okay? That sounds crass. It isn't. Customers are wonderful people, all of them. They're customers. You don't have to call them. You can call them to their face something else. In your mind, they're customers, all of them. So your core customers will be the people you serve directly, probably your service providers, your team of professionals that makes your organization happen, and then any of the administrative team that keeps the operation alive. It's not the board unless your organization is run completely by volunteers. But it's the people who are doing the transactions. In a university, for example, it might be your current students, the faculty, and the administration. Sometime I'll give you buy the book and read the analogy about golf balls. But think of the sun as your core audience. That's your most important. Make sure everybody there is thrilled. That's the front line. Then you have dozens of other audiences. And we place those in outer rings based on the potential size of them. Okay? And the way we do that is to think about the first ring as those who generate income for us. The second group are those who have influence that could help us through their influence. The third group are those who have interest in us, who are expressing interest in us in some way. And the fourth group are people who can talk about us. Might be the media, for example, reporters and maybe bloggers, people who spread the word. In order to manage all those, you might need a CRM, and this is not a plug for Salesforce, I'm just giving you information as an NFP. If you don't have a CRM, a customer relationship management program, Salesforce Foundation gives grants to not-for-profit groups. Check it out. They're remarkable systems. One that I'm really familiar with is what happened for Help Sudan, a small group of Sudanese men who were part of the Lost Boys. I won't go into that story, but a group of Lost Boys in Chicago wanted to build schools in their hometown of Bor in Sudan. And they garnered some local support in Chicago. They got a grant from Salesforce to solve this problem. They had a nice little website of their own. A young high school woman in Canada saw the website, had a fundraiser in her community, sent them a check for $15,000. The boys about passed out. They'd never gotten a check that big before. It was great, except they had no idea that they had no contact other than that young 14, 15-year-old student in Canada. And they said, how are we going to know who gave her money to send us a big check? And the CRM gave that capacity to do that. It's pretty remarkable. The other place I'd go, and again, I have no connection to these people. I'm not doing commercials. I'm just telling you. HubSpot has some great resources that are free online that will give you clues. They'll want you to buy their stuff, but they give a lot away free. And I would just encourage you to explore that. All right. Once you know who you are, know your audiences, and know your mission, vision, and values, speak clearly about it. Be really upfront. And be open and transparent. We have a blast with taglines. We operate a little, we collected about 3,500 higher ed taglines, just because they're so amusing. And we had this database for a long time. We finally decided to open source it and put it online, so we run this site. And you can search higher ed taglines. Do it. It's just a riot. And in fact, now we've figured out an algorithm of the seeming patterns among them. And in those 3,500 taglines, there are only 1,200 different words. We're all saying the same thing. It's scary. So we started this thing. We did a little research, and one of our interns figured out the algorithm and created a pattern so it would generate its own tagline. So you can either get it from our site or at taglonomy.com, and you can earn a certificate in taglonomy studies or something like that. You can get a master's in it. But sometimes our taglines aren't clear, or, well, here's an example. This is one of my favorites. It's 20 words. I'm sure this means something to somebody, but for the most of us, I thought, wow, I don't know what that is. I don't care. I do like this. And I like it because it expresses that entrepreneurial, innovative, moving forward, gutsy, let's go, let's take it on spirit that's here. That responsiveness to say, hey, we're in a new place, a new time, new day. We got to get people ready for a new America. And not only that, we're going to focus on women because they're going to do it better. And so let's do that. Let's do what we say we do. And I like that. I like the energy of that and the directness of that. It reflects well on them. By the way, I want to be clear. We gave them courage to say it. They said it. We didn't make that up. They said it. We just said, yeah, say that. That's really good. Here's an example of trying to keep things simple. Here's University of Georgia that has like 250 majors. Most 17-year-olds have no idea, just don't even know what to do. So they were having trouble getting people to understand what those majors meant. We developed a program where all you had to do was put in anything you were interested in. If you watched Mad Men last night, put in Mad Men. It's not an academic, it's probably not a word found in the catalog. But if you're interested in Mad Men and put it in there, it'll search related items and give you 16 options for a program that might relate to your interest in Mad Men. If you're interested in bugs or cows or cars, it doesn't matter, just put it in there. It'll find it. It'll give you a little bit of information about that particular program if I chose advertising from that list of 16. But it'll also say, hey, you might also like this. If you're thinking about that, you might try that. And by the way, if you want more information about it, go here. And if you want to share it with a friend, go here. Easy, 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 easy. Keep it simple. Keep it really simple and jargon-free. All right, number 5. Know what it is you're setting out to do. What are you trying to achieve in your marketing? Be really clear about that. I hear an awful lot of not-for-profits use this expression. You don't have to admit if you've used it. Well, we're just the best-kept secret in Hartford. We're New England's best-kept secret. That's not true. I don't know what the best-kept secret is. It's certainly not four-star general's personal life. But yours is not the best-kept secret. I don't know what it is, but it's not yours. So, A, quit saying that, because what will happen is you'll live into that. You'll be really coherent because you will be the best-kept secret. You aren't. So know what it is you really want to do. Neither do you. You've heard this too. Our board just wants us to be a household name. I always pause at that. I just stare. And I think, really? Why? What difference would it make if every household knew who you were? Can you help them all? Can you serve them all? My guess is no. Very few taxes serve us all, but not much else. So don't worry about being a household name. You can't help all those people. Now, what they mean is, I wish more people knew about us so we didn't have to explain ourselves so much, so when I go to ask for $1 million, it's a lot easier. That's what they mean. Now, that's an objective. But the people who are going to give you $1 million are probably, there are probably about 20 of those people that you might be in your circle. So some of you have more than that, but roughly. So what you want is to be a household name in those 20 homes. Be clear about what it is you want to do. So there are ways to get your name out. It's called advertising. There are 3 kinds of advertising. One is paid. Guess what? You pay for that. And it usually comes in the form, we talked about this before, print or broadcast, or there's some online advertising, but you have to pay for it. It's traditional advertising. And then there is advertising that you already own. It's your blog, it's your publication, if you have a magazine, or if you have a radio show, or if you have whatever it is that you distribute, that you own, that is a source of information. I'm not talking about your advertising, I'm talking about the information you share. You own those things. And that's a legitimate way to tell your story. And the third area is earned. And earned is the stuff that comes to you because you're an expert. People come to you because they want to know what you have to say. And that's things that other people blog about you, or the newspaper comes and says, hey, I want to do a story about your cool thing that you're doing. And all of that is stuff that you earn. As you might expect at RHB, when our clients come to us, they say, hey, talk to us about that earn thing. That seems really good. It sounds free. And we say, well, it comes at expense, but not the kind you're thinking of. First of all, you have to do something in order to earn some attention. So here are 3 things you can do. One is to demonstrate expertise. Be really good at something. Have information, share tidbits, how-tos, whatever it is you do, take that knowledge, lasso it, and share it, your expertise. The second thing you need to do is something remarkable. Solve a problem. Fix something. Disrupt. Do something crazy. Bring Queen Latifah to campus. Whatever. Do something remarkable. Discover something. And the third thing you can do is be controversial. Now, warning, warning, warning. This is dangerous. Others have tried and failed miserably. Be careful when you do. Doesn't have to be a bad thing. But vet it with some friends and colleagues before you decide to step out and do something controversial. Okay? But it's not a bad way to get earned. If you do something that people disagree with or want to challenge you on, it's not a bad way. When you enter the social arena, start by listening. And then work into conversation. But listen first. And if you're new to social media, don't fear it. It's nothing to be afraid of. Just hang out for a while and just stalk. Just listen and figure out the rhythm of the conversation, just like you do at a party. You don't show up in a crowd and start blathering. You listen and kind of figure out where you're going to step in, and you work your way into the dance, just like that in social media. You're worried, for those of you who aren't into this, you're worried because you think you have to do all this, and this is scary, but you don't, all right? Those are all specialty things. They're really just a couple of places that you need to hang out. But here are some things. This is from Nielsen from this summer. Nielsen has a lot at stake because they want us all to watch TV. So they're really interested in the things that distract us from TV, and they're trying to figure out how we engage in other online activity as it relates to TV. But they really study this so they know what the mood is, what the trends are. The point is this. Working off your laptop or your PC is going down a little bit because of the preponderance of your phone and your handheld mobile, your iPad or Kindle or whatever. Don't be confused by the diagrams. This is web use. This is app use. Look at what's happened. The point is, we're hanging out with those little devices. And it's more and more. So make sure your information is adaptive to those settings in those environments. The second thing they tell us is that this is really significant. Don't get that wrong. But it's really right in here. There's some other ways, but hang out here. This is where it's happening. For what it's worth, if you're young, you tend to engage in social media in the restroom. If you're a little older, you can do it at work. Just so you know. The place to hang is this. This is, you know, that big wheel we showed from Brian Solis, the conversation prism a minute ago. Here. Hang out on Facebook, although that's dropping off. Some people are frustrated with Facebook, so that's dropping off a little bit. But still, comparatively, it's huge. Blogging, which is here, mostly, is still enormous. There's tremendous growth in the blogging area. Here's Twitter, up 13%. LinkedIn's kind of staying flat, but look at Pinterest. If you're interested, if your market is white women between 25 and 50, start pinning. Just put everything up there, because that's where they're hanging out. Okay? If that's not your market, if you're trying to reach a bunch of guys, Pinterest isn't going to help you a whole lot yet. But really, it's blogging, Facebook, and Twitter, and now Pinterest. If you can manage those, you're fine. Here's Pinterest. Look at the growth of Pinterest. Of course, it's new, so we would expect that. It'll level off, but still, pretty interesting what's happening. Just thought you might be interested in that. One other thing I would direct you to, again, I don't have any connection to the Minnesota Historical Society except that they do some really smart things, and one of the things that they've got online is this set of materials that was written by Joe Hoover, which is their social media and web guidelines and strategy worksheets. It's really smart information. Could work for your organization. It's free, it's available, it's there. I wish I could take credit for it. I can't, didn't have anything to do with it, but it's good material. Just go get it, it's available to you. Seventh, behave like your best self. Once you know who you are and what you're about, do that. Just do that. And do it consistently, day in, day out. Just be your best. Remember this, coherence is not what you say, it's what you do. You should write that down. You should put that on a t-shirt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 words. Coherence is what you do. You can jump up and down and say you're X, but if you behave like Y, you're Y. So if you say you're X, be X. Ask yourself, if I'm the #1 women's college in the world, how does the #1 women's college in the world behave? When I come to a decision point and I have to take a course of action, I should have a little bracelet. What would the #1 women's college in the world do? In fact, go home and make a little bracelet with that on it, whatever your organization is. What would we do? Because that's how you build coherence and consequently trust. And then fail forward. Don't be afraid to mess up. In that 1.27 zettabytes, frankly, not many people are going to notice. It'll be all right. And the cooler thing is they're going to forget about it in 2 weeks. You can be a sportscaster and make a nasty comment or just go overboard about a beautiful woman in the audience. And we'll all talk about it for 20 minutes, but next week we'll forget, or the week after. Oh, sure, a few people will be mad for a couple of years, but we'll forget, and we'll let you continue. We're living in a period of time where failure is not only expected because we're in this inventive period of time, but it's allowed. And if you want to look at the track record of a lot of people who are leading us, you'll see that we forgive pretty quickly. So don't panic about failure. Now, I wouldn't encourage going out to intentionally fail, but if you do, don't worry too much. It's not the end of the earth. Classic example. Post-it notes were supposed to be this great, the glue was supposed to hold things together forever, and the guy who developed it couldn't get the formula right. But he found out that that little sticky was just enough to, I think he was a choir director in his church on the side, and he used it to mark the pages in the hymnal. And he thought, oh, this is cool, and before long, they were manufacturing Post-it notes, which you have about 4 billion of these in your office. So this is a miserable failure that worked out okay. So think about another way to use The World Bank actually sponsors this really great thing for not-for-profits called the Fail Fair. And they get world changers together and talk about the things that went miserably wrong so that everybody can learn from one another. So have a little Fail Fair here at Bay Path. You should host the little local Fail Fair. That would be awesome. Come and bring your mistakes. We'll work it out. Okay, 8 ideas. Hopefully there's a little something in there that'll stir a light bulb and something you can take home to get you off that circular mill. Interestingly, as a wrap up here, I was in Atlanta earlier this week. Actually, I've been in Atlanta twice this week, but I decided it would be an interesting week to stop in the Newsweek store. And sure enough, there it was. The Newsweek store had the last print issue. We are living in very different times and changing times. But this is the best time ever to be a not-for-profit. This is a great time to be inventive and do new things. Have we faced storms? Absolutely. Been terrible. We've had lightning strikes all over the place. The cool thing about a big rainstorm is that afterwards comes all this time of rejuvenation and freshness, and all beautiful things spring up. That's up to you. And you have this opportunity to bring up roses all over the place. I wish you the very best in that. I hope you embrace the ruckus. And I thank you very much for your attention and the privilege of being with you this morning. All the best, and Godspeed in your journey. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Rick, for those great comments. Gave us a lot of stuff to think about. And you also gave me a perfect segue while we're getting ready for the next segment to just invite you to my blog, which is on the Bay Path Graduate Nonprofit website. You can find it by going to Bay Path EDU, Graduate Programs, and then select Nonprofit Management or Strategic Fundraising. And you can see up in the corner, it says Thoughts from the Director. And I invite you to join in on the conversation. Love to hear your thoughts as well. Okay, and so at this point, I'd like to move on to the next part of the program and introduce you to our panelists. They'll each give a couple of comments about Rick's presentation, and then we'll have time at the end for questions and answers from the audience. Okay? Okay, first.
Yeah, I'll sit in the middle so you can have a microphone.
First, Dina Plapler is responsible for the management of all fundraising and alumni relations activities associated with the University of Connecticut Health Center. This includes the John Dempsey Hospital and the UConn School of Medicine and Dental Medicine. Professor Plapler has extensive fundraising management experience with expertise in major giving, special events, and planned giving, and has overseen fundraising in the Hartford area for over 15 years. And her projects have included the Wadsworth Athenaeum. I thought I would actually screw up on Athenaeum there. The Hartford Stage, the Mark Twain House, and the CT Science Center. Active on numerous nonprofit boards and a member of the Association of Healthcare Philanthropy and the Association of Fundraising Professionals. She also holds a Bachelor of Science degree from New York University, a law degree from Georgetown, and an adjunct graduate faculty member here at Bay Path. Welcome. Joining Dina is John Herschel. He's at the far end there of the podium. John is Director of Leadership Gifts at Mount Holyoke College, where he oversees major donor research, gift planning, and a major gift office focused on donors rated at $100,000 or more. He recently moved to this position from Amherst College, where he was the Director of Gift Planning. And John's approach to fundraising is simple. He uses his 19 years of experience as an advisor and educator and fundraiser to build meaningful philanthropic relationships between donors and nonprofit organizations. John is also an adjunct professor in our nonprofit graduate programs and teaches a variety of philanthropic, fundraising, and leadership courses. So at this point, I think I'll start with Dina, and then her comments will be followed by John's.
Great. Good morning, and thank you very much for that kind introduction. I promised you the introduction was longer than what I'm going to say, because I know we all want to ask questions of our wonderful speaker this morning, Mr. Bailey. I have a lot of ruckus in my life, as I'm sure you all do, and I'm going to take your wise words to heart. Thank you very much. In thinking how I can add to the wonderful advice we all got this morning, I just thought I would relay a few key principles in my fundraising career that have been very helpful, and they're basic, but I think they're important, and I think you'll all agree with me that these are principles that we need to keep in mind every day. And the first one is, again, amidst all the ruckus, to really focus on the key relationships that are important to you, your position, and your organization. Those relationships can range from the new donor that you're currently cultivating to your board president to the organization's largest donor. But get to know your donors, because we all hear the old adage, people give to people. And that doesn't diminish from your organization. People say to me, oh, but you know, what if I work for a bad organization? No one's going to give to people who work for a bad organization, but people give to people because of relationships. And in the course of your career, there's nothing more important, and this is what I tell young fundraisers and when I teach my class here at Bay Path, it's the relationships that you take with you that make you a successful professional in this field. I don't mean to get racy this early in the morning, but I kind of actually have a 3-date rule when it comes to fundraising. I don't ask my donors for anything on our first encounter. I really don't, and I really am very serious about that. I don't bring a proposal. I try not to have something in mind. Of course, we all do, but I really try to get to know them. And sometimes by the second date or encounter, they're starting to think, oh, are we going to talk about fundraising? Can I make gifts? And I really say, I'd really like to get to know you. Get to know your passions, get to know, have you get to know the organization a little better before we really start talking about what's meaningful to you. And I found that works well for me. So again, to emphasize, focus on your key relationships and never lose track of how important that is. To follow up on one of the points raised this morning on listening, I can't emphasize enough how important to me has been to listen to my donors, ask them for their insights, ask them for their best thinking before asking them for money. And that can range from something as simple as one-on-one lunches or breakfasts to focus groups to giving circles. Many of us have heard about the interactive type of groups that we can form for our donors. Never assume you know what someone's passion is. As you heard, I work at UConn, big sports school for any Husky fans out there. And, we have a lot of donors who go to basketball games. We assume that's their passion. I had lunch with one of our big basketball fans recently, prepared to talk to them about basketball, and I found out they had actually lost a child to cancer. And their passion was actually cancer research, learning more about what we were doing in that arena. Had I gone down the path of a basketball gift, I'm sure they would have made a gift. But when I really got to listen to her and find out what it was that moved her and what was meaningful to her, I found a new area that I think will turn into her passion gift and what will really be her connection to the university. Again, not to get bogged down in old adages, but when you ask someone for money, often you'll get advice. But if you ask them for advice, down the road you will get money. And trust me, it's always true. Once someone has buy-in, becomes a participant in your organization, gives you advice, joins that focus group, joins that advisory committee, they feel a sense of ownership, and they want to succeed, and they want you to succeed, and they'll work with you to make that happen. Third point is never overlook stewardship and simple thank yous, every time. When donors are asked a lot of the time why they didn't make a second gift or why they stopped giving after many years, they often say it was because they felt the organization didn't really appreciate their gift, didn't need their gift, didn't appreciate them, didn't know them. Never let a donor feel that way, both professionally and personally. You do them a great disservice as well as for the organization. Then my last point on the lighter note is enjoy your job. When I talk to young fundraisers, I say if you're going to really succeed in this profession, it has to become your lifestyle, has to become something you enjoy, has to be something that you're passionate about. We're all privileged to work for organizations that do good work. What we do is important, as we hear on the radio a lot. Feel proud when you're asking for support for your organization, and know you're doing work that really makes a difference, and try to have fun while you're doing it. Thank you.
I'm not sure I can really add much. I think I'm pretty much going to restate everything that's already been stated. I'll try not to do it in a more boring way. But the concept of communication is really critical. In my work, I've got 15 staff, 9 gift officers who are on the road, meeting with alums of the college every week of the year. And we don't ever use print publications. We don't directly hand out proposals. We don't use web. The annual fund does. Other parts of the organization manages that piece. And that's critically important to what we do. But all of our communication is face-to-face. If I'm going to sit down with someone, I'm going to talk with them about a $5 million gift or a $100,000 gift or whatever it might be. The most they'll get from me in writing is an email, possibly, maybe a text, definitely a handwritten thank you, and maybe a deed of gift. But never a proposal. It's always done orally. It's always done over dinner or over a glass of wine or whatever they want to drink. Hopefully it's something good. The bonus of working at Major Gifts is it usually is good. So how do you manage a strategic communication plan when all the communication is done face to face, and it has to be adaptive and it has to be oral, and how much faith you have to have in your colleagues, and knowing that I was talking to someone earlier this morning, and knowing that the organization's got your back when you're out in the wilderness, sort of beating your own path. And so we have sort of 4 general rules of thumb to sort of help manage that communication, that oral communication strategy. And first, it's just to become a detached facilitator. We can't bring ourselves into this conversation. We have to focus on finding an equitable relationship between the organization and the donor. And so that means, we can't get ahead of the donor. Inevitably, if we're going in there wanting expecting a gift, wanting something, a specific outcome to come out of it, you know, we're going to be working against ourselves and against the donor. Intent. So all words, all actions, all of our processes are driven by intent. So if we're too selfish or we're unclear about the purpose of the meeting, it's going to fail. We'll lose control. The former senior VP at Mount Holyoke used the term unambiguous relationships. We want to be very, very clear about what we're doing and very honest about it up front. On the subject of radical honesty, or subject of honesty is what I call radical honesty, where we have to be radically honest about ourselves. So if we're working with a donor and we get ahead of the donor, if we leapfrog the conversation, you know, an early misstep I made with a parent prospect 2 years ago was, you know, you know, we met, we had a great glass of wine, and everyone's happy, and they have no trouble talking about a large six-figure gift. They want to bring in the child to the conversation. You know, it's fantastic. And so I immediately send them a proposal, and it's just crickets. And so what's happening? I send an email, don't get much back, and I make a phone call and say, Carolyn, I just want to say, I think I got too far ahead of the conversation. I don't think you were actually ready for this proposal yet. Is that true? Can we reset the conversation? Can I find a way to come back to you and start again? And you know, she really appreciated that honesty. From an organizational perspective, I think it's important to be honest about the organization's missteps. I used to work for one of the first domestic violence intervention agencies in the country, comprehensive domestic violence intervention. And their mission when I started was to end domestic violence. And I said, well, that's impossible. And certainly not, our organization's not going to be doing that. We can do it for specific families. We can disrupt the cycle of domestic violence for certain people, but we're not going to end domestic violence. So let's stop saying that. And that sort of radical honesty with the donors really shifted the conversation. So because I was candid about the myth of this mission, I was able to build trust, and I think that sort of candor is missing in some of conversations that happen between fundraisers and donors. So that's really critically important. You know, don't be silly, don't share all the dirty laundry, but you know, but be candid. And there's the discipline piece of the communication process. So, you know, if we move too fast or we talk about money too soon, we'll lose control. We need to have a process, and to be very specific about that process, that's special to your organization. In my organization, we talk about gifts right away. Within 30 minutes, we're talking about gifts. And that's critically important because the competition for that money is cutthroat. And so I don't go with a proposal or ask for a specific amount. I ask permission to ask about a gift. How can we have a conversation about a gift? What can Mount Holyoke do to start this conversation? What do we need to provide you? You know, help me understand how we can have this philanthropic conversation. My title is Director of Leadership Gifts. They know what I do. They expect to be asked. If I don't ask, or if I don't bring up the conversation of philanthropy, they're going to kind of wonder, what was the point of this conversation? Why was I here? Why did I pay for your lunch? So that's you know, that's what I have to offer. So thank you.
Yeah, great.
Thank you very much for both of those comments and thoughtful thoughts. Okay, at this point, we get the chance to have the audience ask any questions that you might have. And I think somebody may have, yes, someone out there has a microphone. So don't be bashful. And where's the first question going to come from? Just like always. Wonderful, Rima. Behind you, we have a mic. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Rima Dial. I'm the Executive Director of Country Dance and Song Society. So you heard our mission statement just a little while ago. Your first point about knowing yourself is a starting point for a lot of ruckus in nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
As many organizations struggle with just that first step of defining who they are, the competition, what they do better than anyone else, what are tips you can provide those of us who are doing that hard work, but then continuing the rest of the work of being radically honest with our donors, for example, telling the story of why we are worth the gift because we do have such a rock star cause, and we are the only, in my organization's case, to do that, but we're still at that first step of defining who we are. Is that clear?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Well, point one, hold hands while you go through. Just hold hands while you're going through the process. And jump in here. You know this as well as I, but I think most organizations suffer from a lack of confidence. You work in an island sometimes, and you don't understand how really beautiful you are. It's that shell experience. If you're clear about what it is you do really well, and you have expertise and demonstrate expertise in that and success in that, and you've got that recorded, you know how many dancers you've helped and how many communities have thrived because of what it is you're doing, and you know how much joy, go study how much joy you're bringing. Measure that. And that kind of information will lend confidence for you to live into your claim. I think a lot of times because we speak in generalities, we don't stand up with all the confidence we need. Can I talk about women? Yeah, okay. I just got permission to say, we struggled a little bit of that with that little line for Bay Path, the New American Women's College. If we didn't put that women's college in there, we could be a little more inviting to a broader group that would not consider a women's college for any number of reasons. But having the confidence to say, we know who we're going to serve. It's not going to be everybody. But the ones we're going to serve, we're going to be deliberate and upfront. And the transparency you're talking about is exactly that. It's when you're out there, you have every reason to be confident. You know the story you're telling. Just tell it. Will everybody jump up and dance with you? Maybe not. But the ones you want to will. The ones who are enthused about that will. So have joy and be confident in that. But I know that coming to who I am is also, part of that is saying who I am not. And that's, find those things too. Because then it'll give you the freedom to say, yeah, this is what we do. That's just us.
I think we have time for one more question if anybody wants to be bold. Yes, here on the side.
Hi, my name is Wolf Laguerra. I'm part owner of Soul Intentions. And my question is, how do you market something that is intangible? Because I'm a life coach. So I guess I am the product. So how do you market that?
You guys want to take that?
Well, first you need a 10-word mission.
Yeah.
And you need to put it on a T-shirt.
Again, be specific about what it is you do. Think about in terms of deliverables. What is it? What's the outcome of that? If I don't understand what a life coach is, explain what it is what's the benefit? What's the thing that's going to happen if I engage you? How is my life going to be different? If you can be clear about what it is you're really delivering, the language that you use will help you get to helping people understand that. I might not know what a life coach is if I've never had that experience, but I know my life is messed up and I need some help finding a path, carving a path to my goals. So if I can use the language that my audience understands, even if it's intangible, even if I can't draw a picture of it, I can find expression of it and look for those kinds of things.
I would just add that sometimes it's easier to have other people market for you,
Yeah.
so that somebody who's had good results, I mean, you know, almost a before and after, you know, you have sort of the person before they had your services, then after, and that speaks for itself sometimes even better than you can.
Yep, absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, and I think also the find the objections. I mean, most of our work in fundraising is understanding what the objections will be before they're offered. I mean, I work for a women's college, and there are 35,000 living alumni of Mount Holyoke. There are 23,000 solicitable. I have 1,500 major gift prospects. All of these, you know, as I segment, I begin to understand what the objections will be, not only to the gift conversation, but there are also objections with the living alumni about the relevance of a women's college. You know, there are a lot of living alumni that just want to see Mount Holyoke be a coeducational institution. That's not going to happen. So how do I anticipate the objection or the barrier, or understand what the possible negative connotation of an all-women's college might be to a particular person?
Thank you, and please join me in thanking Jeff, Rick, Dina, and John.